Vim. We're going to do some Vimscript today, day 36 of the boost. People probably just trickle in, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and get going. So let's start by tearing apart the Vimscript that I've started, and we'll start to add items to our outline here. Yesterday, by the way, was not 2 days ago, we covered, it was a day 35. We covered like echoing and messages and, let, like to set variables and if then, else, all that, how to do functions and commands and the difference between a function and a command. And all of that. We had fun with all that. And then we will be taking that a little bit further today, and I'm going to try to fit all of the rest of Vimscript in one day. So again, the purpose of the boost, I have to say this every time, is to help you understand the general concept so that you can go dig deeper and know what you should learn, or what at least I think it's worth knowing. In the case of Vimscript, it actually is not important for you, I think, as a beginner getting into IT or whatever, to know all of Vimscript. You just need to know how to decipher what's there and how to know where to look up the syntax when you don't know it. There's no chance of you like running ahead and writing your own Vimscript plugins. As a beginner, you might, So again, that's the purpose. The purpose is for you to understand the Vimscript vimrc file, so it doesn't look so daunting to you. It doesn't look so scary. It's something you can just like kind of pick up and go, right? So let's look at that. I'm going to go trace mine again. So here is the vimrc file. And again, I'm assuming I'm streaming. I'm not actually even sure. Let me just do one quick little check to make sure we're actually streaming. I know the YouTube is working. I just want to check the Twitch. Yep, there we go. All right, so let's go back to the top here. We're going to cover this today. We're going to cover Autocmds and highlight and syntax and all of that. So, and we're probably gonna have to get through the formatting. To get through that, I'm probably just gonna have to show you where to go look for it. There's no real need for me to go deep into explaining what you can read, right? So I'm just gonna give you the angle on this stuff that it's not completely obvious. We did set options 2 days ago. We put those in there. We covered if statements. You can look up the operators anytime you need to. If you need to look those up, just do help if, and it's all self-documenting. Vim is a very self-documenting tool. It's one of the most self-documenting tools as long as you know how to get to it. Some people who like to make YouTube videos don't think that's true because they don't know better. Here you go. Mark trailing spaces with an error. We're going to come back to that. This is, that's not one we're going to cover. So let's just do it. Help match. So what is match? Define a pattern to highlight in the current window. It will be highlighted. So match is a highlight group. I don't know if we want to get into highlights right away though, unless you want to. I mean, they are kind of cool. So yeah, let's do that. Let's just jump right in. I mean, we'll have to alter this a little bit. So let's do highlight and syntax and stuff. Okay. Is it highlight? Yeah. All right. So use match for a highlight pattern in the current window. So it will be highlighted with groups. So that will take, you can create a regular expression that matches something, and then it will apply an entire highlight grouping to it. So let's get into highlight first. Let's do highlight first. Let's do that. So to check your highlights, you can do colon. Is it highlight? There it is, highlight. This gives you all of your highlights for everything. And so if you're going to get into, I mean, you might want to tweak some of the colors that are there. And if you get into this, you're going to live in here. You're going to be like looking at colon highlight all along. These over here are the highlight groups that we talked about, right? And this over here is what gets applied to you. Now, one of the most confusing things, and I am going to talk about this, is what is the difference between term, cterm, GUI, and GUI-FG, and all this stuff, right? The short answer is that term is the main one for the terminal. The GUI ones are obviously only for the GUI version of Vim, which you're probably not using. You probably don't need to set, but you might need to do that. And cterm is color terminal. Almost positive that means color terminal. Yeah. So let's go actually, let's read about it. So help a highlight. So there are the highlight types. So we have the color scheme. This is different, but let's keep going here. I want to show you the stuff that the members of it. So the color scheme, runtime path, highlight group name, clear group name. It's a highlight group. We talked about that. Okay, so the only one that I know that matters is term and cterm. Okay, term I think is for any terminal, whether it's black or white. I think terminal is for everything that's not. We should probably, let's go see if I can find it really quickly. Term and cterm. I just remember that when I don't change one and I change the other one, I get trouble. so that's what I'm talking about there. I'm pretty sure that's what that stands for. But yeah, see, there we go. Bold, and then FG in background. I think this is just the terminal without the color, and this is like the terminal foreground and the background. And so this is for the GUI. It's the same thing. I mean, you can read a bit more about it there, but just that's the way I've been using it. So even if that's wrong, here it goes. So there they are. Term is a normal terminal, vterm, but you're going to be using xterm 56. By the way, we didn't talk about this, but if you haven't said it, I think we did talk about it in the bashrc stuff. So it's probably worth putting a little note here. So let's see. Oopsie. Well, I'll add it later. We need to make sure, you got to make sure that your bashrc has something about what kind of terminal you have. And you can usually just, I mean, these days you can just punt and always set it to xterm 56 color. I don't know of any terminals that don't support that these days. So you can just go ahead and put that in there, and you'll be safe. And we talked about that in the bashrc days, but yeah, and you also have to add it to tmux, which we haven't covered yet, but we will. So bashrc, search for term. There it is. So it's one of your main environment variables. Just make sure you have that there. Otherwise, the colors aren't going to work. You're going to get color schemes in there, and it's not going to work. The language definitions are restricted to the 16 colors. You know, the light and blue variations. There's 8 of them. And those are the main system colors. And we talked at length about the difference between system colors and 56 color and millions of colors back when we were doing shell scripting. So make sure you go back and watch those days if you need to go back. But yeah, so cterm is for the color stuff. That's pretty much everything these days. Anything that has a color term cap. Okay, so you're gonna need to put both of those in there anytime you want to play with the highlights. So let's see, have export term equals xterm equals 256. And you know what, it used to be that you could have like pretty much anything here, but not anymore. I mean, there are so many different kinds of terminals, but then, you know, that all went away. There's no terminal variation now anymore. 56, did I do it? I am going back and find it again. I don't pay attention. I need to pay more attention. Here we go. 56 color. It's lowercase. Okay. Color in your bashrc. Yeah. Otherwise, you're not gonna, you know, you're not gonna see the colors. All right. So, and then we're gonna use highlight to see color groups. And this is important because you don't have to redo it all. Yes, I do want to write it. Please write it. Okay. So, and we tried that already. So let's try it. :highlight. So there's all of your terminal groups. Now, the reason this is important is because it's a bad idea, honestly, to set a specific color for a specific thing when you can grab one of the standard ones. And the standard ones are here at the top. And if as you go down farther, you're going to start to see, like there's a Boolean number. And so any of these syntax highlighter plugins, which we don't need to get into, but what they're doing is they're just changing these default colors, like, like keyword and number and characters like that. And they're just using the same set. Now, some languages have a much different set of color groupings, and they start to pull up here. So here's the first Pandoc one. Pandoc has got tons of them. Pandoc is a tool for converting from Markdown to any other, from any format to any other format, including PDF and HTML and all that. And so it has, every time you see me writing a blog message or Zettelkasten note, I'm using that. Here we have HTML, so I don't know what defines that. And later on, I'll show you a thing you can add where you can actually see what, at any given moment, what your system thinks you're on. Let me show you. So like if I'm in the middle of like this thing here, I think I can remember. I think it's F2. Is it F2? Which one is it? I don't remember. This was my F1 or F2. There it is. So I have a macro set because I was actually doing this kind of thing. One of the hardest things to do when you're trying to recolorize something or tweak an existing syntax plugin is to know what span you're in. And so this kind of goes with syntax. We're kind of talking about syntax now. But the thing you need to just understand about syntax is, depending on where you are, that where you're at is going to have several properties as if it were all parsed up. So for example, if I do fn, was it F2 again here, you see this is a vim is command. All right. Then I go over here. What is this? F2, that is a vim is command, and it's also a vim command. Well, what is this thing over here? So you see what I mean? It says a vim string. And why is that valuable? Because you might not always know what the computer is resolving your stuff to. And so if you're trying to mess with color, yeah, you might want to do that. This is not really a beginner topic, but I figure I might as well tell it to you because it's in my bashrc. I have a mapping here. We're kind of all over the place, but let me show you how I've mapped that out. We're going to get into mappings later, but I just want to give you that one now since I talked about it. Disable search highlighting, no. There it is. So that's what this function is. I'm just going to put it here for you. But we talked about functions yesterday or last time. We talked if it exists, if synstack exists, then return blah blah blah, right? And this is checking. We established a function here, and then so what this does is it runs synstack on the current line and tells you what kind of ID it is. And I know that's complicated. I had to look it up. I couldn't really parse it for you right now if I needed to. I'm trying to figure out where it's mapped to function though. I don't see that mapping right now. Oh, there it is. So I wrote a function. So this is commonly what you would do. You would write a function, and then you would map it to here. So it says, so I'm mapping my F2 to call synstack with this syn ID in front of it. And so that does this, calls this whole thing, and that causes it to tell you where you're at. So then I'm making him do it here. And it's like that. This relative. That's oops, wrong one. So we can do here as a F2. So vim set and a vim command and vim option. Why am I showing you this? Because I got kind of distracted because we were talking about highlight groups and color groups, and that's what these are referring to. So these color groups are saying, hey, if I have a thing like this, this is the color. So if you were specifically trying, like for example, maybe the highlight color, the spelling errors are too bright, which I always hate. I don't know if you saw, but like if I hate how the default Markdown or whatever, if you misspell something, it's just the default is too hard on my eyes. So I had to reset that. So I had to look in here and see what it was. This one doesn't show what it was because it's not really matching anything. But by doing this, you could say this. You could say, let's go highlight. I like keep things practical. And you can look for all the stuff that looks kind of like that, right? So in search, the search parameters too, I also changed those because they were way too bright. And error message. Okay, maybe the error message is the one that I'm doing. I don't remember if there's a spell one in here. Let's go look. I don't remember. I mean, I have it set down below, so I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Why don't we just do that? I'll just go look at what I did. But so yeah, so there's all your things there. All right, so tilde.vimscript, and let's see, I have the, is it in here? There we go. So let's just, since we're already talking about highlight, let's jump to the highlight section. We need to probably talk about themes too. I don't know. Maybe we do need one more day to talk about all the specific settings. Gosh, there's so much to cover. We're still covering highlight. Let's just finish. So this is how you do highlight. So this says, this is a shortcut for highlight. It says set the status line group to these colors, right? And I put all these nuns in here because I was not getting transparency. And if you've seen some of my previous streams, I was annoyed because I wasn't getting transparency. Well, here's where I changed spelling bad to be something else. Now you can actually set these live, and so like for example, right now, select is making this color this here, and I think, oh, it's search. I could do search. I could change it. I could do C term BG equals white, and now it's like really bright. See that? So as I said before, you can like kind of go and tweak it as you go and decide what colors you want while you're going through it. And you can read about all the different colors and stuff. So I feel like that's probably enough about highlighting to get you into the groove of what to do. And I'm going to use, I'm going to put, I'm going to say custom mapping to C group. I'll add more about that later. Give me a second here. So highlight to see the color groups, to see and set color groups. Okay, and so let's jump ahead to file types and syntax. Okay, because that's one of the most important things that you're going to experience with this. A lot of people just want to put a plugin in and just be done with it. And that's fine. I mean, if that's what you want to do, you just remember you're not going to have that plugin everywhere. So file types. So as you can see down here in my status line, it says I'm type pandoc. That's because the pandoc plugin added a new type. And it's super important that you know the type, because the type changes everything. It changes all the rules about syntax highlighting. It changes, you know, all auto indentation, everything. Everything is based on file type. So most of the plugins will add additional things to an existing file type, but Vim comes with a bunch of file types by default. In fact, if you want to get really crazy with this, you can actually go down into the Vim source files, and you can find there's like all of the file types are there. You can look through them and see what they do and their different color settings and everything. And there's a number of them. If you have Vim 8 Plus, it's going to pretty much have everything by default. It definitely has Markdown, but it might not be what you want. You might want to tweak it now. So I'm going to put a little note in here. Know how much to tweak. So this is a tough one, right? So you're going to get plugins. So you're going to be picking plugins. You have to decide, should I use this plugin, or should I tweak the plugin that already exists, or should I just add my own thing, or should I make my own plugin? And usually I find, like I did with the Pandoc one, that I just kept adding on changes, and then I got so many changes, I was like, I should probably just tweak my own version of the plugin. So I forked the plugin. I added smart quotes and a bunch of other things, which we're not going to get into. So you can auto conceal, in case anybody's wondering. Auto conceal is what happens when you see how there's these backticks here. I'm just going to put deeper stuff. So and conceal and folding, and you're not going to need to know that. All right, so but that's what's going on. In case you're wondering, that's, you can add conceal rules that will change certain characters from displaying and make it so that they're only there when they're highlighted. That's a Vimism. All right, so we've got highlighting going on. Let's talk about file types some more. So one of the reasons that file types come to is because file types are associated with highlighting. Okay, so this is where you're first going to see file types, right? You're going to see yourself creating, and this kind of leads us into Autocmd. So they're kind of all together. It's really hard to keep them separated. So Autocmd is something that runs when it detects an event. All right. Now you can have, you can actually have, here, let me show you. Oh, I did the wrong one. Let's go here. Okay. So, you can have, I don't know which one to do it to show you. Help. There you go. Okay. So, okay. So the star, so here's the command to execute, right? So the first arguments to Autocmd are, okay, when should I run? Under what conditions should I automatically run? And the first one is what group, right? So let's read this. I'm going to read their words for it. Add command to the list of commands that Vim will automatically execute on event for a file matching pattern. Autocmd pattern. A core character is seen as the argument to Autocmd. So let's see if we can deconstruct the one that I have here. Mine buff read. Okay. So this first one here, I think, I don't know which one is it. Let's go check. This is why I like my inspector. Let me go check and see if I can. Vim auto event list, Vim auto event. Okay. So this is the event. So the event is I've detected a file type. Now, if you want to see all the events, I think it's events. No, help events. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of events, and you're going to like never learn them all. But what's really cool to know is that events exist. So you can say when this event happens, like one of the events you'll use a lot is the file type event, of course, which means if this file type is detected, then do this, right? And you'll, you know, like plugins are full of that stuff. But in addition to that, you can do things like in the pre-close event or the pre-save event, you can actually have code run against the whole file, like reformatted or something, on its way out right before it finishes saving. And that's another event. So we have auto commands that fire off of events. We have highlighting in this case, and the event itself is I have a file type. So yeah, so here we go. File type. See, when the file type option has been set. So that's cool. I didn't know that was I knew it was something to do with file type. I didn't know it was specifically when it's been set. That means that when you put that in your thing, that if some other syntax highlighter or detector plugin has said, this is this file type, that means your file type event gets run along with the rest of them. So that's what's going on. That's kind of cool. I mean, that's fun to look into, because I mean, I always knew that it was related to the event, but I didn't know exactly what time it happened. And look, that really answered that question. So why this is me overriding all the colors everywhere. So I got 256 type colors in here. I don't think you can do millions of colors in here as far as I know. I've never done it. I think it just supports 256. But these other named ones are the ones that match the ones that come with your system. So make sure you go back and watch those days if you want to do that. None is transparent. So sometimes you have, a lot of these are here because I had to explicitly put none. Oh, okay, here we go. So the file type, the set file type event, and any value. So this is any value that was passed. Down here it says set file type. If the file type was Markdown or Pandoc, then set the fire the highlight command. So when set file type Markdown Pandoc, then highlight titles, cterm, FG, terminal background, stuff like that. So whenever we're talking about events, it's always good to think of them in when-then terms instead of if-then terms, right? So when set file type is called, then, you know, do this, right? I think that's going to be good for there. We only have 19 minutes. I think we're going pretty good. Again, I'm just trying to give you an overview here. This, you know, it's very, very dense stuff. I get it. But this is most likely the stuff they're going to be done. We're going to talk about format. Don't worry. This is probably the one that scares the most people. It sure the hell scares me. To this day, it still scares me. I still have to read through this like 10 times. The reason I broke it all down and put a huge comment after each one was because I was sick and tired of not getting it right. And it's one of these things in Vim that's got like several other layers of configuration that are also affected by it. So we'll come back to that. That's format. I almost feel like we're going to have one more day and we're going to talk about, you know, like format and well, let's keep mapping in here. I don't want to get rid of that one. So, okay. Q exclamation. All right. So we did syntax highlighting, Autocmd, and we need to do map and remaps. All right. So map and remaps. So let's keep going down. Anything that's new that we haven't seen yet. And we still have to go through every single setting. Don't worry, we're going to go through every single setting. But, you know, I feel like you can go through them yourself and just read about them. This one is really tricky. Oh, I want to come back. List characters is supported in different ways on different versions of Vim, and it gets pretty hairy. Plus, no, we'll go back to that one. Relative numbers, HL line, the short message. The short message here kind of back. It's Vim info. Yeah, we have to talk about all these options. I mean, this is why people don't do Vim. And if you don't like to have this level of functionality, then maybe not be for you. Maybe, you know what? And that's why people like punt and just use NeoVim and grab somebody else's config. But you can do the same thing with Vim. Just copy my config and put it on your system. There, boom, you're done. Then go modify it, modify mine, and then change to, everybody's done that forever. So nobody starts out with their own vimrc usually from scratch. So there we go. We got back our highlighting. We got that done. We did the auto commands. So by the way, these here are the base default color changes. Okay. Keep in mind that these get changed by syntax things all the time. That's why there's no auto command here. If you want the color to override what a plugin does, it has to be in an AU. I need to put that as a mode. All right. So, that's actually not completely obvious. What's that? So to tweak is an A. Yeah. All right. So if you use highlight to set default, use auto command, file type, and then highlight to override. So that will override, because it'll be the last thing that executes. When you do this, you add your event onto the end of everybody else's event. So after they're all done changing all the colors, yours is the last one and it wins. And I remember discovering that. That was really frustrating. So I'm glad I thought of that one, because that'll save you a lot of time. And what else? We got mappings going on. We got the file is readable. We talked about that. Did we talk about plugins? We haven't talked about plugins at all. Damn it. We need to go through each of the plugins too. So that's gonna have to be another day. I don't think we're gonna be able to do that today. I got 15 minutes. I could go forever, and I just don't want to do that to you. Let's stick with the highlighting. Okay, so here's another case. So let's talk about auto commands that are not related to syntax highlighting. All right, so here we have the VimGo plugin, which has got a lot of configuration variables here. And you just have to read about them if you care to know. And then here we have, when there's a file type that's Go, create a mapping. So let's talk about mapping and map. Not anything to do with the program and map. Leader, and by default, I think leader is / I've set mine to \/ I believe. And then the T, and it'll do the thing. So actually, and it will execute it will type, when you do an nmap, it actually is the same as like an alias, right? In bashrc, it's like, I'm going to type these things. And you probably are going to have to go look up all of the stuff for that. So let's do that. Help nmap. And you go look at it. It's very self-documenting. Vim is very, very, very self-documenting. It is as much, if not more, self-documenting than Emacs, contrary to the claims of others. I mean, it's all there. You just go look at it. The problem is that it's so self-documenting. It's got a lot. So, because it's been around. So here you got the null remap, xmap. What are all these different map stuff, right? So map the key sequence LHS to the RHS. So map this thing to this thing. So this one becomes this one. So yeah, this is all waffle to me right now. Yeah. I think N is for normal. Is it? Did you figure that out, Cordomer? And V is for visual. That might be. I don't know. I've never done that. I've just always done map and nmap. Unmap. Man, there's so many of them. Look at them. But they seem like they're all the same. They're all different variations on it. So where the map command applies, disallowing mapping of RHS to avoid nesting. So the exclamation point, just so you know, that overrides everything else. So that's super important. Now we're going over Vim with others. So yeah, so that's I don't even know. I don't know half of those ones. I know unmap and I know new map, nmap, and I don't really stress about it. If I needed to go look at every single variation, I guess I could look it up, but it's never hurt me. I've used nmap and map. These two right here are the only two that I've ever really used. I would suggest, yeah, that you stay simple. List all key mappings for the modes where the map commands apply. Note that map and map are used the most often because they include the other modes. That's what I'm saying. So, you know, don't get frustrated by digging really deep down into all these other things. So in fact, you can even look up all your maps. This is another thing. You know, people say all the time, "Oh, I don't know what's going to happen when I do this or that. What are my hotkeys? I can't figure them out." :map. :map gives you all of your hotkey combos that you can look up anytime you want to. People don't do that, right? So what was the other one? What is your like common usage? Like, was it Vim usage, I think? Wait, VI usage? VI usage gives you all of the built-in commands. We talked about that a few days ago. So you don't need to go running out to the internet to, or even have a copy of the hotkeys. It's right there. VI usage, and we talked about that. And :map will tell you what your hotkeys are. :highlight will tell you what your colors are. And then, you know, just build on it from there. Oh, that's nice. So some ways of, some weird way of using file types. I don't know. But, so, I mean, these are all the ways to look stuff up. So I have to talk about those because people get mad that they say they don't have them. So there's Autocmd spelled out for some reason right there. This says, oh, this is one of mine that I wrote because I want to read it. This says, I found the Vim pre-leave event. By the way, the events can be, case doesn't matter. So this is a Vim pre-leave event. So right before leaving Vim, while I'm in a file, it runs go-fmt on any Go files. So it says Vim pre-leave on any files that match till the, and they have Go at the end. And then it runs this. So if you know, the Fatigue, the Vimgo Fatigue plugin is the one that normally does that in real time, but if you add that, it'll do that. Here's the recourse you have. It's just copy and paste. Yeah, I mean, you can do that, but we've already talked about how to use Vim a long time ago. So now we're talking about how to configure Vim. Here's another one. This is going to melt your brain, I know, but I did this. The only reason I want to talk about this Autocmd right here in this event is because this is a really solid example of why learning shell scripting is way, way more important than learning even Vim scripting, because you can associate any event with a command, like a shell command of any kind. So people who spend all this time like learning specific plugin syntaxes in Python and Lua and everything are wasting their time, because if you just learned how to shell script, so you're investing your cognitive resources in memorizing something. And if you memorize eLisp, you know Emacs, and that's it. And all that cognitive investment is lost. If you invest that cognitive investment in learning shell scripting, or even Perl, or even Python, but particularly Shell, Bash, and Perl, if you want, if you get a lot of extra for that, because now you can use those languages for all kinds of other things, and they also can be incorporated directly into your editor with Vim. So and your stuff's all portable. Your stuff's portable if you're using Perl. Perl is everywhere. So, it's not completely true in the container world, I know, but if you're using, Bash or Shell or something like that, the regular expressions in those things are just like really bad. Perl is famous for how powerful its one-line expressions are. This Perl one-line expression automatically replaces any Markdown link that's empty with a link to DuckDuckGo that takes the title and turns it into a URL for a search. So it dynamically turns it into a search. So if I have something like this, it turns into that when it ends. And that's just really handy for me, because sometimes I want to come back and I don't know quite what to link to it yet. So I'll provide a link knowing that I'm going to go back and fix it later. And then already the users can click on it, and it will give them their own internet search so they can go look at it. And that's super useful for me when I'm writing a bunch of hot links in some sort of web document or something. So what this says is, when it's a Vim preleave event and it's a Markdown file, then run this Perl command on the entire file. That's what this is. And do this find and replace against the whole thing. That could have been sed, it could have been awk, it could have been anything. But the point is that you're using shell. VI and Vim are extensions of the shell. They're not replacements. They're not IDEs. I mean, this is getting into the IDE space because we're doing manipulation of stuff en masse, But I'm going to dwell on that a lot again, because this is where stuff really gets interesting. I do have a couple of VMaps, it looks like. I do not like visual mode. I went ahead and added VMaps because I think VMaps are a waste of time. I think VMaps are a waste of time because I think visual mode is a waste of time. And that is a very unpopular opinion. There are so many better ways than to use visual. Anything that you can do in visual, I can show you a better way to do it without visual that will work in VI and not just Vim. Almost anything. And that includes commenting. So look, people always use visual mode for commenting. You know what I do? CMT, boom, done. All right. So CMT, okay, let's do it in the proper way. There we go. That was much easier. Plus the thing that I did, use the filter syntax that my fingers always know for everything else. Oh, right. Sorry, S keys here. So let's do this. So let's say, so I'm using my good old, using my sectional selects. We're going to do this later, but like you can even do this. You can do this, and you can do AP, and it'll pick the whole paragraph. And then I want to send that through and replace it with the CMT program that I wrote in Shell. And I want to say, I want to change the initial comment to have a quote there because whatever, and I can just undo it. It's easier to type than visual mode. This fewer keystrokes than visual mode, and it's consistent. It's consistent with everything else that you should be doing, right? So I'm going to go back. I'm going to make a plug for this again. So let's say I've been doing this thing here. I have this Markdown here, but I want to convert it all to numbers because I want to put it in the comments of YouTube. Okay. So if you get into the habit of using filters and shell integration, which is kind of, I'm off on another rant here today. Watch, I'm going to send this paragraph, right? So exclamation point AP sends the entire paragraph, which happens to be the end of the file. That's what the $sign's about. And then I'm going to send it to what? I'm going to send it to Pandoc. Or I'm going to send it to a little program I wrote called TXT. And what does it do? It just converts it from Markdown into regular text. And it adds all the line numbers and everything. Well, I can do even more than that. I can do this. I can say the same thing. I can just do the whole thing. And I can say I want to send it to TXT. And then I want to put that into Xclip. Boom. And now I'm going to undo that. But now if I go over to something else, I can middle click my shell mouse. Actually, I screwed it up. I screwed it up because I did a paste there. But you get the point. So, you can go ahead and do that. Let me go try it again. Wait, what's going on over here? I can't see what's going on. So I'll try it again. So do txt pipe to xclip. And then over here, add temp foo. And middle click paste. So there it is. And I could have pasted it into YouTube. It doesn't have to be the terminal. It could have been anywhere, right? The point is, the power of VI comes from integrating with the shell and not using a bunch of extra languages for the plugins. We only have 4 minutes left, so let's see if we've covered all the bases here. And you don't need a lot of configuration. You know why that came up? Because that came up because we were talking about mappings, and I have one visual mapping for this thing, right? So actually, you know, I'm going to get rid of it. I don't need it because it's just going to throw people off. I don't want to use visual mode. You don't need it. Visual mode is a waste. It's a waste of time for you to learn how to use visual mode. It's a waste of time for you to memorize how to use it with your fingers. Every single thing that I just did, I can do without visual mode on a system that has just VI on it. Every single one. So learn how to write little shell scripts that do the things you want, and then integrate those into your workflow, because that shell scripting will apply, and it will be Unix, consistent with Unix philosophy, and you can layer them on top of each other. You can have one go to the next one, go to the next one. You can have a whole like filter chain. All right. Stream time. Yeah. That's in Tmux, actually. That's not Vim. Yep. So with your Perl script, will Vim find the program in the path instead of the line script you call program? Yeah. So let me show you what that one does. Somebody want to see what that one does? So we're talking about auto commands, highlighting, and transformation. The thing I really want you to take away here, how's it going, Leo? Is you need to get your brain into thinking about sending streams of letters and content to other programs and outputting a transformation on that thing and passing it along. That is the Unix way, and that's also the VI way. And if you think about that all the time, instead of I'm going to select this block and then I'm going to do this one thing to this one block, if you think about how am I going to get that block out and send it to something else, you'll automatically fall into the right mindset for using VI. So like if I'm going to do like food out markdown here, and I say something wicked Vim, all right. And I put that there, and then I close it, and I reopen it. It automatically changed it. So, and that didn't take very long. Now, by the way, make sure you test these things, because that's a destructive change. If I had been in a large file, and you know, I can't undo it. There's no undoing that, right? So I'm going to do this. I'm going to kill this one, delete. All right. So again, it's like, and I really like to use bash when I can, right? And then save that, and then I open it back up again. Boom! Now it's got my DuckDuckGo links built in. So that's pretty cool. I mean, that's just the power of Vim. That's actually not anything special at all. That's a Perl script and a Vim event and an auto command. The end. You know, there's no special plugin. There's no Lua. There's nothing. It's just regular old, plain old Unix. It's not even, you know, it's Vim, which is, you know, more than VI, but it's completely unsexy, and yet it's extremely powerful. But people don't do this. They keep trying to find a solution for something that already has been fixed. It's already much more elegant to do it this way. And all of that learning that you just did about how to write a Perl transformation like that applies everywhere. Not just to that Roblox world you're going to make in Lua someday. So, yeah. Let's see. It does not copy man pages nor need libraries. I don't know what you're talking about. Install Tmux, for example. What are you talking about? Why not use NVim? We're going to have a full day on that. NVim is a horrible disaster of alpha software that is guaranteed to produce people who can't do anything unless they have NeoVim, which is a disaster. I'm actively campaigning against NeoVim. I think it is a huge fail on every level, every single level. And I actively documented why. But one of the first reasons is this assumption that you can't use what you already have. And that's based on just absolute lack of experience. The people who made NeoVim have no idea how to use Vim at all. They've never fully understood how to use Vim. So why would you start out an alpha software project so that you can use Node and Lua and create this monstrosity of an RC file that can't be used anywhere? Why would you ever do that to yourself? It is such a bad idea for a beginner to learn NeoVim. If you want to learn something, learn, as I said before, learn NVI first. It works everywhere, including BSD and Unix and everything. You learn that first. Number 2, learn Vim and then build up on Vim. But learn how to shell script, people. Learn how to shell script and then integrate your shell scripts into your Vim configuration in the way God intended, the Unix gods anyway. Then what? Then if you want to use NeoVim, fine. But at that point, I think you'll find there's nothing NeoVim brings to the table at all. Prove to me one thing that NeoVim can do that I cannot do more effectively using just Vim. You can't, because there's nothing. And every time I put this challenge out, nobody has an answer. Almost every single time I put this challenge out, their answer is, oh, but I want to use whatever, Powerline or something. But you can use that with Vim. You don't need. All right, I'm ranting and I'm over time. Somebody asked though, to do anything, yeah, and that was it. But they don't need to do that anymore. So the NeoVim project was primarily a fork because they were angry at Bram because they wouldn't listen to him and do anything he wanted. Because he kept saying, I don't know, I don't see anything new here. What? I don't understand. There's still reason to use it. Plus, it's important to tell you, NeoVim is 0.4. Why on earth would you want to memorize alpha software that's never been committed to any 1.0 level yet? Why would you want to Why would you want to burn that into your brain forever? And why would you want to learn how to make a configuration script that you don't know whether it's going to work with Vim or not? And you're never going to have NeoVim. I work in an environment where they have an old version of Vim, and that's the only one we get to use on the login machines. So on those login machines, if somebody were to go to them and create a change management ticket to put NeoVim, they would laugh in your face. So I'm telling you, just don't do it. Get up right now. I don't know where to start. We'll talk about that in a bit. We're about to wrap up. So this, I didn't mean for this to be a NeoVim rant, but anytime somebody asks me about NeoVim, I have to rip him because I just feel so strongly about it. I feel so strongly that beginners should just avoid it. And I believe there's lots of objective reasons to it, and I've written about those objective reasons. It's not just hot air. This is like legitimate disagreement with what it's doing to beginners out there. All right, so we talked about highlighting. All right, let's recap and make sure we covered everything. So we talked about highlighting. We talked about file types. We talked about syntax in general, how to look up those highlights. We talked about Autocmd. And the last one we haven't really talked about is map. And we did briefly talk about map, but let me give you some examples of map. When people think about, when they think about Vim, I remember Raritan, he's not here anymore. I'm going to pick on him a little bit. I love him to death. He's one of my favorite streamers. He's been over in our community. Brilliant guy. And he constantly is asking, what's your hotkey combo for this? Oh, you are here. Awesome. It's good to see you. And I remember when we first met, he would like, well, what's your hotkey combo for this? And what's your hotkey combo for this? And I respect that. I totally respect that you want to initially look for the hotkeys to make yourself more efficient. But the reason that I don't have a lot of mappings is because I think that learning the base mappings first is important. Because if you learn those things first, you're like, for example, learn how to use control left bracket for an escape alternative, which is supported everywhere that there's a non-international keyboard, on planet Earth. And then maybe consider burning that into your muscle memory, and then maybe consider remapping caps lock, which I have as well because I'm old, and things like that. So the reason you're not going to see a lot of maps in mine, and I did go ahead and map these. I mapped some of these extra. I don't ever use these, by the way. People are always, because I usually have another window open that's running them automatically. It's running my tests incrementally on change whenever my files change. So I don't have to do any keystrokes. I just have to look at the window. So I think having that kind of automation is a lot more valuable than having key hotkeys. But this is how you do a hotkey. You just put nmap or map I think n is just a regular map, and then this is the left hand side and the right hand side. So that's how maps work. But just be cautious. You know, you might don't, like, for example, before you go mapping, like, you know, escape to like JK or something, just realize that when you're doing that, you're stopping yourself from ever using VI effectively again. If you learn control left bracket, that works everywhere, even on old NVI and stuff like that. So when, you know, I said the purpose here is just to kind of give you my take on it. Everybody has their favorite hotkeys and stuff like that. I said disable search highlighting, which Control L when refreshing screen. I've got a couple of other remaps. This is actually, that doesn't really remap anything. That just adds something to an existing map already. Control L clears the screen, and that does that in it does that in everything. This is to make Y consistent with D and C yanked till the end. That's one that I don't understand why they didn't add. So there's a few things here that make real sense, but as you go through, you're not going to find a lot of mapping in mine. To tell you the truth, I never remember these. You've probably seen me, mostly because I can't hit the F keys on my keyboard with my eyes closed. I'm just not that good. If you can hit the F keys, I can't even hit the number keys usually half the time. I'm not good, but if you can hit the F keys really well, then go for it, you know. But this is pretty standard. This is like setting spelling. You can turn spelling on or off. Set paste is one that people really map. Set paste is, you know, that's like if you're going to do a cut and paste that we talked about. I do encourage you to do this one here. Okay. So, watch and reload a Go project. My own code. It's just easy. I have a little shell script that detects a change to the file, and when it does, it reruns the test on the file and prints the output. It's why if you use the Unix way, you don't need an IDE or anything like that, because Unix is your IDE. It's your IDE, and with Tmux being able to put the panes wherever you want in an instant, that's all you need. You really don't need a lot more. And a lot of people disagree with me. This is an unpopular opinion, but I'm telling you, if you learn this, it'll be effective. Just yesterday, because I had Tmux, I was able to share my screen with a team during a critical issue that we were trying to figure out. And I immediately split my screen into 4 pieces, had 4 pings going at the same time, and another thing that was checking etcd control to see whether we had healthy etcd consensus going on in Kubernetes. And all of it was on the same screen. And no one on my team knows how to split the screen with Tmux. Not a single one of them. And it was very frustrating because they were all like, oh my God, you know, and they didn't say it like that, obviously. But I'm just telling you, if you learn how to manage your screen real estate using Tmux, or screen even if you don't have Tmux, you use Unix as your IDE, you won't need the rest of the stuff. Yeah, and I keep harping on that, but I really believe it. Let's say last year your error was a little more profane. Yeah, it was. I took that out. It's the how's it going, Zebrow? I actually added that back. You know what else I added? I added a rainbow. I added a rainbow back. But see, this is one you might want to add. I don't suggest adding this if you're an absolute beginner. If you're an absolute beginner, just allow yourself to use the arrow keys for now until, you know, there's people that I've taught before that would slap me in the face for saying this, but, you know, allow yourself to just be okay. Instead of using nano, I mean, if you feel like you have to use nano instead of VI, then allow yourself to lose the arrow keys, because when you're in insert mode with the arrow keys, you can move all around and you're fine. It's no more difficult than nano. That's why I don't understand why they put nano on anything. But if you're ready to take it up a notch, you might want to go map these keys up, down, and left, right, so you get errors, and the errors will tell you use this instead. Echo, I have an error here, and that'll just give you a little reminder that you're, oh yeah, that's right, you want to do the thing. But still, you know, you can turn those off and use it if you want to. Yeah, if you're scrolling with your mouse wheel, it won't work. It'll turn off. See that? If you're using your mouse to scroll in VI, shame on you. We need to talk about search-centric VI usage too, which is going to save you from scrolling if you learn to do search-centric stuff. So anyway, what else we got? So we got some mappings down here, a better page down. Control N and P. Yeah, I personally added this because Control N and P are the same way that Links uses forward and back. So that's my own mapping, and that I don't feel guilty with that. Control N, Control N and P are pretty common. Even like there's a Spotify client that does the same thing. IRC uses that to go through the different rooms. So Control N and P are pretty common for up and down in different things. So it's probably good to memorize that one. And so what do we got here? My Pearl Tidy, no, we won't do that. What else? What other maps do I have in here? Nope, I think that's it. Those are the only maps I have. So go study those things. So those are the things that I kind of outlined for today. Highlight, file type, syntax, Autocmd, and maps. So and if you kind of want to keep up, maybe just spend the next hour or two studying those things. And just enough so that when you add them to your own vimrc, that you know what you're adding, right? And you don't really have to get in. This is not worth like an intense cognitive, investment of time, because you're gonna have to look it up anytime anyway, because you're not in your vimrc very frequently. So you should be doing that. We got a couple questions here. I'm gonna read those. I'm gonna tell my Pomodoro to shut up for a second, and then we'll move on here. Actually, I think I might be able to bring it up on the screen here. So let's read what you guys have to say. Back up a bit here. So everybody needs to understand what you're using. Yes. In regards to nmap. Yep, there you go. Map overviews. All that stuff that you guys are looking with is all from inside of Vim. And I'll tell you, I didn't learn that until later in my career. And I really think you should learn :help and the internal shortcuts to look up help inside of VI itself. Okay. Yep, we covered those. Where to begin from? Again, right now I don't know where to start. Just go to day 0, 21 Blue. 21 Blue, go back to day 0 and start. If you can join us for AMA tomorrow at 6 is AMA time. So anybody who has questions, put them in the AMA in Discord, or you can come in and ask them live. But if you put them in Discord, I'll have a better chance of them getting answered. Let's see. What do you watch and reload the Go project? I use a program that I'll have to make a separate video on that. DePaul, if you want to ask that question in AMA, that would actually be a good topic to cover in that. If you want to hear about that, I can show you how to do that. And we gave him a channel link. Okay, you got that? Who is RWX? All right, got it. Control B. I don't know what Control B. Control B is down, right? Okay, yeah. I like that. Oh, you're talking about. Are you guys talking about tmux? I've remapped tmux to screen, so that's another thing that'll come up later. The scrolling the mouse wheel is a point well taken if you still want to use your mouse wheel, but really. Let's see. There is a playlist. Yes, there's a playlist. There's a playlist on YouTube, 21 Blue. Go check it out. RWXRob/YouTube. No, reverse that. And it's the top playlist, Beginner Boost. I'm sure you can find it. Make sure you pay attention to days 0 through 3, by the way, based on your questions. I convinced my boss to let me go do microservices, which will grow in the future with our own fledgling web backend. One feature is done working fine. That's super cool. That's great. It's glad to hear that, Default. I know you've been working on that stuff. And general insider suggestions to Go servers to give. That is a question to ask on AMA day. So please put that in the AMA channel. Would you do that, Default, for me? And I'll make sure to cover that tomorrow. Let's see. Nice. What is, if I get them hard to figure out? Well, you need to figure it out. But that's just go to YouTube. It's all on YouTube too. And it's going to have all the comments in there as well. I think that's it. That's it for the group today. Again, this video will be up live, within 24 hours or less than that, so you can go look at it. And there were about 500 viewers. We gave him your channel. Wait, what's going on? There's a guy, Chris, at the start asking who is. I don't. What are you talking about, Leo? Let's see. After that, a huge debate started. Oh wait, I gotta read this. And I told him I was pure Vim, and he started laughing so bad at you. Oh, that's awesome. And there was a ton of your fans right there with you who realized me and asked to do the following. And I said yes. Oh boy. So, so we start a Vim fight. It's a very unpopular opinion. I'm not saying it's not, but I don't back away from it. I think you know why? Because I have seen beginners struggle. I see beginners in the middle of emergency calls, unable to use VI properly. Most of them, I just set that show VI and they're like, what? You didn't even know about it. And I'm not attacking my team if there's any of my team out there. I just find it unfortunate that so many veterans don't even know how to use VI at all. They don't even know the basics and stuff. And there's many things that I did not know that people on the stream in my community have brought to my attention. So particularly if you're in DevOps and security and hacker or any of that, you need to learn this stuff. If you want to learn Emacs, that's fine, but you have to learn VI because it's on everything. So there we go. He said Vim does not work on a big project. It depends on the project. It depends on the project. It depends on how big the project is and how organized the project is. So if someone says that Vim does not work on big projects, I will agree with you if you're talking about over 100,000 lines of code or something like that. But that largely is because they're just looking at Vim by itself. As I said, I regularly find and replace every single function reference in my entire code base in one command from the command line using Perl. But that's not the kind of thing that the average person is going to do. They're going to want a nice happy ID to take care of them and do their tracing and all that stuff. And if you're making Android mobile apps, obviously you still want to do that. If you're doing web development, you want to see live stuff. Some people want to have that all in their thing as well. There's many reasons to do that. And if you're working on a Linux kernel or something like that, then these people like Emacs because they're bigger tools for larger projects, for larger code bases. But I'm here to tell you, there are a lot of people who have massive projects, particularly in C, that are doing the entire thing in Vim and VI. And people continue to say that it's not possible. And I know it is because I have seen it in production. And I know of several open source projects where some of the core developers are all about Vim on all of it. So I don't recommend anything from LinkedIn Learning. I've deleted my LinkedIn account. Nope. So yeah, it sounds like Blue, welcome to the stream. Sounds like you're relatively new. Please watch days 0, 1, and 2, and that'll help you understand a lot of those questions. That's actually a good question to also ask during AMA time. Okay. Yeah, I don't. It's a big question, so let's wait on that one. Okay. I'm gonna cut the stream. This is supposed to have been a Vimscript day, and then we're gonna go on to something better after this. And without LSP, it would be a bad idea to memorize everything. People. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I like LSP at all. People who need IntelliSense to help them out, or this whole auto completion stuff. I just laugh at that. I'm sorry. It's like, it's totally stupid. It's not just because I'm an old person. If you're going to use AI to determine your function and write a full sentence as your function name, we're headed for some very bad code bases. I mean, spectacularly bad, not to mention the fact that now who owns the code because it was all auto-generated by somebody else's AI. You know, I can't even talk about that right now. That's probably a separate topic. But I think, again, if you're going to I'm going to give you the very specific places where VI destroys everything else. Anything in DevOps and operations. Anything in DevOps and operations, because you have to be functional all over the place, even though it's less true now than before, because you can like mount directories in your containers and not even have VI on there and use your Emacs or whatever, or even VS Code. But it makes your life so much easier. Security. If you're hacking into systems all the time, you need to learn not only VI, but you need to learn ed, right? And if you're doing those kind of things, if you're in those spaces, the operations space, the security space, and I believe in the systems programming space, which involves those things and tweaking those things, I think that you're going to get that for a long time. Yeah, the problem with IntelliSense is I've never experienced an IntelliSense that didn't just get in my way and cover up text that I needed to see. IntelliSense is one of the most guaranteed ways of making sure that I could never produce anything, because it pops up stupid recommendations that cover up all the code that I'm trying to look at, and then I have to like disable the thing or throw it out. I don't know how people survive it. Seriously, the other thing too is I can search up anything I would ever care to learn from IntelliSense in milliseconds using links. And nobody on planet Earth uses links to look up stuff. 0.001% of the people on planet Earth use links to look up the syntax for Golang FMT and see what the print statement is about this. Okay, so println. All right, how long did that take me to get to the official documentation? Less than a second to get to the full official documentation. Why would I care about having an IDE that's going to give me a bunch of teasy little pieces of crap that's going to get in my way when I actually need to look something up? I can look it up in half a second. Now, the problem is the people that make the decisions about IntelliSense don't have this ability built into their system. They haven't built the wicked fast ability to research the internet, and so they're unnecessarily tied to their IDE. And it's really unfortunate because the terminal interface and terminal web browsing is the fastest human way to look up information. There's no faster way. And if you watch people do this, so I have to talk about all these other little pieces to make the case for Vim, because at that point, Vim is just one in a suite of tools that ultimately is Linux terminal. It's a Linux terminal with tmux, bash, Perl if you want, Python if you want, and links built in, or W3M, whichever one you prefer, and then command line equivalents that allow you to look up this information as fast as possible and include it in your bash shell history, so I don't even have to depend on my browser picking a browser that's going to save my history. When you add all of those things together, Vim will destroy anything else for development. It will just be faster than anything else. Now, maybe Emacs. If you had a window full of Emacs on there and you had some really, really large code bases, maybe you could go with that. Yeah, it does have the Godot browser, but I can still find it better. The number of keystrokes required to do the Godot browser, or even to look up a man page about something, is still more keystrokes than it takes me to do a sentence search on links on the internet. So I've actually even stopped using man pages because I can get the information from a consensual, group of people, Stack Exchange or otherwise, faster than I can get the one hopefully well-worded documentation line from the official docs. And if I want the official docs, they're right there at my fingertips too. So when we haven't talked about Vim documentation and looking things up and self-documenting and all that stuff, but you don't need any of this if you actually know how to search the web from a text browser, which no one knows. No one knows this. And if you would just spend enough time to master that one thing, I promise you the benefits would be overwhelming. I did it in an emergency call yesterday, and the team was like, wait a second, what did you just do? I was in the middle of a call. I was sharing my screen, showing everybody, and I said, I wonder if this is so or what. I did an instant search and answered the question right there. And they said, what? Wait, what did you just do? You just did a search right there from the web browser? I said, yeah, it's just using links. They don't know it. People don't know this. And if you know it, you'll be that much faster than everybody else. And the people that are going to invest the time to learn this stuff, there are not going to be very many of them. There's only going to be like I said, 0.001% of the technologists out there are actually going to invest the time to become a true terminal research master and to be able to integrate Vim the way it should be. And Emacs in that space too, possibly, if you have a larger code base. And those people that do that are going to continue to dominate everybody else that they work with. And it's not just me. I've seen people do this. And so when I watch them do it, I'm just like, yep, there you go. And meanwhile, you're trying to convince people that this is the way to go. The mainstream on all the podcasts and everything is talking about this and such, and pair programming over here and this and that. And I'm like, okay, fine. Because it's so unpopular and unknown. And people immediately call it retro and old school. And I'm like, fine, you can call it whatever you want. I'll be 20 times more efficient than you, and you can say whatever the crap you want about me. No, it's just a little macro, dude. It's not even that hard. It's nothing. All of this stuff is possible on a Mac. Every single thing I just did is possible on a Mac. Yeah. From the Linux environment. Yeah, you can get them all. You can add them all to yourself. The question is whether you want to invest in learning to play classical piano properly from the beginning, or you want to plunk out, you know, chopsticks and get enough to like get a girlfriend or something on a guitar. If you really, really, truly want to dominate everybody else in terms of terminal efficiency, you have to invest the time to hold your hands right and to do it right from the beginning. And the reason I get so passionate about this is because so many beginners are building bad habits into their hands and minds. They're building horrible habits, and particularly Emacs. If you invest, look, if you want to invest in Emacs, that's fine, but you need to make sure that when you choose to invest that much time and energy into Emacs, that is lost. That cognitive investment is lost, and you're forever going to be burned into the Emacs ecosystem. If you learn VS Code, you're going to be burned into the VS Code ecosystem. But if you learn the terminal, you're going to be burned into the terminal. Yeah, you'll have the most efficient way to do things, but then you can also layer other things on top of that. So you're not going to have to come back and relearn a bunch of stuff later. All right, so 3.x, yeah. Z-shell, don't bother with Z-shell. Z-shell is dangerous. Z-shell, I can objectively tell you several reasons that Z-shell is dangerous, but we're going to talk about that another day. Yeah, you can just, if I were on a Mac, I would immediately install Bash and all the GNU utils, and I would use nothing but that. Z-shell is dangerous, people. Z-shell builds false expectations that will cause you problems when you code in shell on a container someday in BusyBox or Alpine. And you will use assumptions about floating point math and what was the other one? It wasn't completion. It was the, and testable globstart regex expansion. And you will use these things expecting them to be safe because that's what you learned on Z-shell. And then you will go into a container and use nothing but POSIX shell, and you will commit a heinous security error that will cause your stuff to be, you'll be the one called out for having the root error in it. It's already bad enough that containers run as root a lot of times, but when you actually code it having learned Z-shell first, you're going to be ruined. You're going to be ruined. Do not learn Z-shell scripting first. Learn shell, POSIX shell first, so you know all of its intricacies and problems. It's not very complicated, and then learn Bash. All right. I'm just going, I'm going crazy. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not, yeah. So I'm kind of off today. My distro, I'm using Pop! OS because it is the fastest distro. People who fight about distros just don't know what they're doing. I laugh my I laugh at people who fight about distros. I'm like, fine, you guys struggle with distros. Meanwhile, if you learn the terminal is the only distro you need. A terminal and Docker containers are it. And then you're good anywhere. I can step on any computer with a terminal, Unix, Linux, Windows, or otherwise, and I can become immediately productive. I don't care about the stupid window manager. I don't care about any of the distro settings. Is it Linux? If it's Linux and it has a terminal and I can put tmux on there, it's already on there, fine. I'm good to go. I am efficient no matter what. I can sit down at any terminal anywhere and be as efficient on any system, including a Mac or a Windows machine. People who fight about different distros and different window managers and all these selections and stuff are they're just splitting hairs about, you know, or whatever, and they're like bike shedding the crap out of their own workflows. I know people love to do it, and I certainly love to like have a pretty distro as well, but it's a waste of time to argue about distros. It's a total waste of time, let alone make your whole YouTube series about distros. That sounds like somebody who got a major in social media marketing would do. I'm done. I gotta go. It's been fun.